time for a lot of people. Hi, Luis and David. Hope you're well. And for some people, they feel like it takes a lot to pull themselves out of a sad place. But there is good news that we do have to work. When we're not feeling good, but the work that we do helps, and it's been proven that even in universities that a single happiness enhancing strategy to a group of severely depressed people, that these were really depressed people, people that were even having trouble leaving bed. The one thing they started to do was go into a website and engage in a simple exercise. And the exercise was simply recalling and writing down three good things that happen every day. Like someone called to say hello, they read a chapter of a book that someone had recommended to them, and the sun finally came out today. Within 15 days, these people, their depressions had lifted from severely depressed to, it had gone up to mildly and moderately depressed, and 94% of these people actually experienced relief. So research shows that taking these initial steps to becoming happier can really be implemented. And the first step is recognizing that we want to increase our happiness, and it's not this yearning is not just, it's not just wishful thinking. It is a really important goal, and everyone has the right to pursue and has the ability to achieve happiness. And it's not just something that it's like a knock of good fortune that is just going to come out of nowhere. Hi, Fred Cohen, nice to see you. Baruch Hashem. It's not just luck. It's something that it's the pursuit of happiness. But it's we work on it and we fashion it ourselves. And obviously, not everything in our life is in our control, but part of situations are in our control, that in the way we approach it. And there's been research on unhappy people and on happy people. And here are some of the observations from researchers on the thinking and the behavior patterns of the happiest participants in these studies. So happy people devote a great amount of time to their family and their friends, and they take time to nurture and enjoy those relationships. They're comfortable expressing gratitude for all they have. They're often the first to offer helping hands to coworkers and people passing by. They practice optimism when imagining their futures. They savor life's pleasures and try to live in the present moment. So whatever we can do in this present moment, that's the best we can do. We're in this present moment. We have to see what we can get in this present moment, because there's a reason we're in this present moment. These happy people make physical exercise a weekly and even daily habit. They are deeply committed to lifelong goals and ambitions, whether it's helping other people, working on their house, teaching their children, or teaching others. And it says, last but not least, the happiest people obviously have their share of crises, God forbid, and tragedies. And they also get distressed and emotional in those circumstances. But their secret weapon is that they have poise and strength that they've worked on, that helps them cope in the face of these challenges. So when we're working on our happiness, it's about you, every single individual person, becoming happy. So that it depends on each person according to their interests, according to their values, and according to their needs. And that's why every person needs to figure out what works for them to become happy. And once someone learns which activities works for them, they're really much closer to really achieving more lasting happiness. So anything we do in life that's substantial and meaningful, learning a profession, mastering a talent, raising a child, obviously a good deal of effort is required. So without effort, we might get lucky, but it's usually a short-lived success. So we need to, when we're talking about, obviously when people think about physical things, whether it's like going to the gym or doing yoga, they know they need to devote time. So if someone desires greater happiness, we really need to sometimes go about it in a similar way, and especially in this situation, we might need to make some changes that require effort and commitment every day. And that's every person according to what they know, what they need. But this pursuing happiness work is probably the most rewarding thing we can do, because it's one of the most powerful things we can give in our life to be happy. And it's, the thing is, how we think about ourselves, how our world and other people is more important to our happiness than than sorry. This is more important to our happiness than sometimes the objective circumstances of our life. The mind is its own place, and in itself the mind can create a heaven, or God forbid the opposite, as John Milton wrote in Paradise Lost. So we're going to talk about a few different things we can do to try to achieve happiness. We mentioned this, expressing gratitude, and this is probably one of the greatest things we can do to start achieving happiness. For some people, gratitude is wonder, appreciation, looking at the bright side of even setbacks, God forbid. Some people, it's fathoming and imagining abundance, thanking someone in our life. Something's thanking God. It's counting our blessings. It's savoring and appreciating, not taking things for granted. It's coping, and it's gratitude is very present oriented. And gratitude is obviously a strong antidote to negative emotions. Gratitude helps us get out of envy, hate, hostility. It helps us get out of worry and irritation. And usually we think of just gratitude as just saying thank you, when we got something. But we can see that there's a much greater and broader definition for gratitude. And one of the definitions is a felt sense of wonder, thankfulness, and appreciation for life. That we could strive to be grateful by noticing that we're fortunate. Even in a tough situation, we're still fortunate. We could thank someone for something they did for us in our past. We can really appreciate the moments we have with our family, recalling all the good things in our present. And like we said, it's the practice of gratitude is usually involved in a focus on the present moment and appreciating our life as it is today and what has brought us to this present moment. So it's a lot more than saying thank you. And a lot of current research has shown that really being in a expression of gratitude in our life has a lot of benefits. That usually people who are consistently grateful have been found to be happier, more energetic, more hopeful, and they report experiencing more frequent positive emotions. They're usually more helpful, they're usually more empathic, they're usually more like they have easier times getting into spirituality and having faith and meaning in their religion. They're more forgiving, and they're less tied to the material than others who are less predisposed to gratefulness. And furthermore, the more a person is inclined to gratitude, the less likely we are to become depressed, anxious, lonely, envious, or neurotic. And so, sorry about that. There, it's going through these studies. Um, okay, so now I'm gonna go into this is a good book. It's called it's something I'll write the name in the comments. I'm forgetting the name of the book. It has to do with happiness. So it says 8 ways that gratitude boosts happiness. So the research really shows that we would be happier if we can cultivate an attitude of gratitude. So, but we need to understand why and how it works to make us happier. So, in this book, she gets 8 reasons. First, grateful thinking promotes the savoring of positive life experiences because it makes us seek this out. Well, by really taking pleasure in the gifts of our life, we can really extract the maximum possible satisfaction and enjoyment from our current circumstances. And she brings a story that her first child was only a few uh, like weeks old, and an older lady came to her and said to her, "You should really enjoy every moment." And she was tired and she was cranky, but she really started thinking about it and taking time to feel grateful for her child. It allowed her to really step out of the dreariness of the long days of caring for her and to savor the magic of the small moments that she was sharing with her daughter. The second thing is expressing gratitude bolsters our self-worth and our self-esteem. When we realize how much people have done for us or how much we have accomplished, we feel more confident. And unfortunately, we sometimes focus on our failures and disappointments or on, God forbid, what other people have hurt us. So gratefulness helps us to unlearn that negative habit. And instead of thinking of the negative in any setback, the practice of gratitude helps us, it encourages us to consider what we value of our current life and that we're thankful that it's God forbid it's not worse. We're happy where we are. Gratitude helps people cope with stress and trauma. The ability to appreciate your life circumstances is really it's an adaptive coping method that we need to positively reinterpret stressful or negative life experiences. So when traumatic memories are less likely to surface, and even when they do, they're less intense in people that are regularly grateful. People who instinctively express gratitude, that when they're confronted with adversity. She says that in the US, in the days immediately after 9/11, gratitude was the second most commonly experienced emotion after sympathy. So, expressing gratefulness during personal adversity, like even in loss or chronic illness, even though it's difficult, it helps us adjust, move on, and helps us to begin anew. Obviously, it can be challenging to celebrate our blessings at these moments, like especially now when they seem less apparent to us. But right now, it's probably the most important thing we can do to stay positive and to stay grateful and focus on what we're grateful on. And she had a severely disabled older student named Brian. He has some mobility, but not much in his hands, and he's able to control a wheelchair by pressing on a lever located near his shoulder with his bent right hand. On the day the class was going around talking about their happiest moments, he said that he was happy after his accident. He felt grateful that he was home. He seemed like it seemed like a little thing, but being home after being in the hospital for 4 months, it felt so good. A 67-year-old woman who had been given a short time to live described her illness this way. When you can hear the minutes ticking and you know the buzzer is going to go off in any minute and your time will be up, you see things so clearly. You just know without a doubt where your values are and why you're alive, and you're so grateful for each moment. I think it's interesting that the Torah says we should really appreciate this day and not take every day for granted and take tomorrow for granted. And we should say, this is the day, God, not to say that God forbid, but we should really look at this day. This is the main day in our life, and that's being grateful and having gratitude. She says, fourth, the expression of gratitude encourages moral behavior. That we said, like, grateful people are more likely to help others. You become more aware of kind and caring acts, and you feel compelled to reciprocate. And we said we're less likely to be materialistic. We appreciate what we have, and we become less fixated on acquiring more stuff. And there was an Auschwitz survivor was once described this way. His life was rooted in gratitude. He was generous because the memory of having nothing was never far from his mind. And in one study, people induced to be grateful for a specific kind act were more likely to be helpful toward their benefactor as well as toward a stranger, even when the helping involved doing an unpleasant, tedious chore. Gratitude, this is fifth, gratitude can help build social bonds, strengthening existing relationships and nurturing new ones. So some people like to keep a gratitude journal. It helps them produce feelings of greater connectedness with others. Many studies have shown that people who feel gratitude toward particular individuals, even when they never directly express it, experience closer and higher quality relationships with them. When you become truly aware of the value of your friends and family members, you are likely to treat them better, perhaps producing an upward spiral, a sort of positive feedback loop in which strong relationships give you something to be grateful for, and in turn, fortifying those very same relationships. So it's like this spiral that helps us keep going up. In addition, a grateful person is a more positive person, and positive people are better liked by others and more likely to win friends. 6, she says, expressing gratitude. My computer is a little funny. Sorry about that. Expressing gratitude tends to inhibit invidious comparisons with others. So it helps us stop comparing. If we're genuinely thankful and appreciative for what we have, like our family, our health, our home, we're less likely to pay close attention or to envy what other people have. 7th, the practice of gratitude is incompatible with negative emotions, and it probably diminishes or deters such feeling as anger, bitterness, and greed. One psychiatrist has said, gratitude dissolves negative feelings. Anger and jealousy melt in its embrace. Fear and defensiveness shrink. Obviously, it's hard to feel guilty or resentful or infuriated when we're feeling grateful. Last but not least, gratitude helps us to thwart hedonic adaptation. What is this? It's our remarkable capacity to adjust rapidly to any new circumstance or event. So this helps us, especially now in this situation, when this event is unpleasant. So hedonic adaptation means that when something's positive, it's easier to adapt. But when something is not good, it's not easy to adapt. So gratitude helps us to accept all things, because it's adaptation. Like, if we can only be happy in the positive, so it's hard to deal with the negative. So by being grateful, it helps us to adapt, God forbid, in more difficult circumstances, and that will help us to be more resourceful. So we're talking all about gratitude. So we said that we do need to put an effort and commitment to being grateful. And there's a couple of activities. Some people like writing, so they could do a gratitude journal. So, like you choose a time of the day, you have a few minutes to step out of your life and to reflect. Some people, it's the first thing in the morning, during lunch, before bedtime. Think about 3 to 5 things which you're grateful for, whatever they are, small things. Flowers are in bloom. Your husband did a favor for you. Uh, your child's first steps, the beauty of the sky at night. And one way to do this is to focus on all the things that you know to be true, whether it's something you're good at, something what you like about where you live, goals you've achieved, and your advantages and opportunities. You can think about specific individuals who care for you, people who have made contributions or sacrifices for you, or somehow touch your life. And this study says that doing this once a week is most likely to to boost happiness. Some people can do it more, and that if that helps them, why not? Um, some people, if they don't want to do writing, some people just can contemplate and meditate on the things they're grateful for, and they can reflect on why they're grateful and how their life has been so enriched. Some people can choose one thing every day that they take for granted and normally goes unappreciated. And some people can acknowledge one ungrateful thought per day and substitute a grateful thought for instead of it. And friends and family can help us with this also. And we could work with a friend or family, like kind of doing an exercise together. And another way that we can keep it fresh is by varying it and not over practicing it. Like they say, spice of life is extremely important. So if someone counts their same blessings every single day, they might get bored of it. So we might try to think of different things or bring in different things into our life that can help us. Another one is cultivating optimism. That's not the same exactly as gratitude. This is looking at the bright side, trying to find the silver lining in the cloud, noticing what's right rather than what's wrong, giving ourselves the benefit of the doubt, and feeling good about our future and the future of the world. I know now is hard, but we could do our best. Or simply trusting that we can get through the day. These are all optimism strategies. Obviously, cultivating optimism has a lot in common with cultivating gratitude. They both strategies involve the habit of really working to make out the positive side. So why does optimistic thinking boost happiness? So it says there's the best possible self strategy is one effective way to tap into optimistic thinking. So what are some of the benefits of optimism? First, if someone is optimistic about the future, if you're confident that you'll be able to achieve your goals, you're gonna invest more effort in reaching those goals. If someone's not optimistic about it, they'll give up. So optimistic thoughts for this reason can really be self-fulfilling, like a self-fulfilling prophecy. If someone perceives an outcome as attainable, that we can reach it, or if you see a possible future for yourself, even if it's not in the current, and the possibility of realizing this will help us strive for it. I'm going to move on to a different, something a little different now. Now, this is a little going back into the psychology of the mind and the brain. And this is called, we spoke about this a little, about integration. And we could say, what is a healthy mind? Is a healthy mind just the absence of symptoms and dysfunction? Or is there something more to a life well lived? How can we embrace the differences of behavior and temperament and values and orientation of all the cultures and still come up with a coherent definition of health, because you have so many different cultures around the world. Some people say we shouldn't try to define mental health because we shouldn't tell others how to be healthy. But how do we account for this universal striving for happiness? And how do we understand the cross-culturally recognizable ease of well-being? You don't have to be a specific culture to have ease of well-being. So positive psychology has offered a real important corrective to this by identifying the characteristics of happy people. One of them, which we just said a lot about, gratitude, compassion, open-mindedness, and curiosity. But is there something that's deeper, that really underlies, that's beneath all of these individual strengths? So this is Daniel Siegel. This is from a book called Mindsight. Daniel Siegel says that integration, having integration in our life, is the key mechanism beneath both the absence of illness and the presence of well-being. What is integration? When we can link and connect different elements of a system. And this shows a direct pathway towards health. This helps us avoid a boring, dull life and a rigid life. And it helps us not have an explosive, chaotic life. So, because if integration is not there, then we can't really cope with the things in our life, and we can either go to chaos or we can go to rigidity. And neither of those is so good, because we don't want to have a chaotic life and we don't want to have a rigid life where it's boring. So one of the exercises he does when he's defining mental well-being, he asks for volunteers to sing. He calls it a complexity choir. So usually the best singers break the ice and come to the front of the room, while some others who are more slow come. And he what does he ask them to do? He asks them to sing the same note all at the same time. Everyone humming along together. So someone comes up with usually a mid-range pitch, and everyone starts singing in this uniform sound. After about half a minute, he asks them to stop, and he makes another request. He says, can you cover your ears so you can't hear one another? And I want you all just to sing whatever song you want. And they all just start. And most of the singers start singing, and it becomes chaotic. Then he finally says, I want you all to sing a song that you know together, and sing it together and harmonize freely, and usually they really start singing together beautifully, either like Amazing Grace or Row, Row Your Boat. And once the melody is established, the individual voices begin to merge, and they weave their harmonies above and below, playing off one another, and they really move together towards a crescendo, and the faces in the choir and the audience light up, and everyone is swept up in the flow of the singer's energy and aliveness. And that's the moment. It says like they're feeling the vitality in the room. That's the moment of experiencing integration in its acoustic best. Because every member of the choir has their own voice, and they're linked, but they're linked together in a complex and harmonious way. When everyone was singing just the same tune for 30 seconds, it gets boring. That's rigidity. It sounds nice, but after 30 seconds, it got boring because it's just the same thing over and over and over. And when everyone is singing their own song and not paying attention to each other, that's not integration. That's chaotic. Everyone is on their own, and that's chaotic. It's not fun. But when everyone is in integration together, they're not the same people, but they're integrating their different voices and they're working together and they're linking together, and that's showing what integration is. So we don't want to be unchanging and rigid like the first way, because that makes life dull and boring. And the second way, that is a cacophonous, it's chaos, you know? It creates anxiety and distress in the people listening. It doesn't sound good, it doesn't feel good. There's no linkage, that's only differentiation. And that's blocking integration. And it's moving away from complexity, it's moving away from harmony, it's moving towards chaos. So, and that's the point of that exercise, to show us what integration is. And integration really has a lot to do with our brain, because having an integrated brain, the right side of our brain processes emotions. The left side of our brain is the logical side of our brain. And if the right and the left are not integrated, someone who is a very highly logical person, but who sometimes gets overtaken by the right side of their brain, they might not know how to deal with it because they're not linked, and it overwhelms their logic at times, and it could really, when the right brain takes over, from the brainstem and the emotions, they could really go into chaos very easily. So when we have more brain integration and mind integration, it really helps us in our life, and this helps us to achieve emotional well-being, and it helps us to get out of distress and chaos, because it gives us the ability to soothe ourselves. So I want to thank you guys for listening tonight. I hope I didn't speak too over your heads. We spoke about gratitude and how important gratitude is, and how gratitude can really help us in all situations. It keeps us away from negativity. It helps us stay positive. We spoke about optimism. We spoke about integration and a few other concepts. Really nice to see you guys. Thank you for joining, and may we have good news, Bezrat Hashem. I hope things are starting to open up. The beach opened up. It's really nice, hikes, and so we could get out of our houses a little and enjoy Hashem's beautiful nature. Thank you guys for tuning in. Have a great night. God bless you all.